as you well know, there's still a lot from the not so past conflict that I'm dealing with. I just came out of the woods hunting some of my people that are still out in the woods, some of the Redsticks that are do not know the war's ended. We've managed to find 4 different groups. We actually encountered one group which resisted us, which we fought them. So I've kept my promise, as I said I would do, at the surrender. So it's with bittersweetness that I'm here, but you know, I have decided in my heart and mind that the right thing to do is to come here to be a part of this, and hopefully to come back again someday.
There are not many men whom I respect as much as I respect you. Even though you were an enemy, you were an unknown enemy that I knew of but had not seen. And yet you came into Fort Jackson all the way to my tent.
Yes, I did.
And walked in, to my surprise.
I did.
And I could have ordered and had you stricken immediately.
Yes.
But I admire you very greatly for your courage to do that. Share with us a little bit that entry that you made all the way through the guards, through the troops to my tent.
Well, I well remember that day. What a lot of people don't know about me is that I'm known as Billy Weatherford. Red Eagle, no, I'm known as Billy Weatherford. My people also know me as Billy Lonnie. That's my nickname because I'm so light-skinned. And it's a funny thing. I've seen you before on the battlefield, but you didn't see me. I've walked amongst some of your own men, and they didn't know who I was. And so that was to my advantage. Now, my mother is from the Wynn clan, and she's Creek, and I'm Creek and proud to be that, right? And that's why I was fearless in coming to you that day. Because Creek wasn't afraid of no one. I'm not afraid of you now. I'm not afraid of anybody. That's the way we're trained. That's the way we think. But that day, I remember that day well because I was certain in my mind, I was completely certain in my mind that I would die. I just knew that I would. I knew that when I rode into camp and everybody recognized who I was, that I knew you had men looking for me. The word had already gotten out. Heard through several sources. And I was totally convinced that I would be hanged that day or shot. So when I rode in, it was kind of easy. I rode by and asked several of your men where your camp was. Nobody asked who I was. Nobody asked for identification. I just rode on through. Some of your men were a little sarcastic to me. They didn't know who I was. I had my rifle with me. If you remember, I had a deer on the back. I had shot a deer. That's part of our peace offering that we do. I had shot a deer on the back and put it on the back of my horse. I think I was only wearing leather pants that day and badly worn moccasins because I'd been in the swamps with the children and the women, and they were starving to death. And I have to say, you know, there's so much. I'm proud of what I've done. I'm proud of the fighting that I did. I'm proud of the war, of my accomplishments in the war, and I'm not sorry about the men that I killed. But Fort Mims, it still bothers me. Fort Mims still bothers me, and I'll never get out of my mind as long as I can live. I'll never get out of my mind the children and the mothers starving. Because all my men, their bones are in the bottom of the Tallapoosa. My army's gone, as I well told you that day.
Well, it's interesting to hear you reflect in that manner because that is what drove us into the conflict.
Yes.
And because it was a civil war amongst the Creeks.
But you know now, I did not have anything to do with Fort Mims. As far as the children and women being slaughtered, I led the second wave of attack, and as I've said, and I've told you, and I've told many, I killed probably more men that day, and I'm proud of it. Proud of it. We behaved as Creek warriors. We killed soldiers. We killed the men. At no time did I ever give an order to slaughter the women and the children. Those people in that fort, some of them were my relatives. I knew some of them. Some of them were crying out my name as they were being killed. And as they began to kill the women and the children, slaughter the women and children, I tried to stop them, as I told you that day. And they raised their clubs up. They were bloodlust. They were overcome with revenge, and they raised their clubs against me, and they said, "We'll kill you too." And I abandoned the battle. I left and went to my brother-in-law David Tate's house that day, because I remember distinctly as I was riding away, I can remember to this day some young girl, some voice crying out, "Billy, Billy, save me. Save me, Billy." And that haunts me to this day. And I know I'm still blamed for that. I think in some ways I always will be, and perhaps that's the way it has to be. But I want you to know that there's not a night that goes by that I don't think about that voice crying out my name.
War gives nightmares. Wars are not forgotten. I don't believe that the populace understands that completely, of what you go through, with the sacrifices that are made, the atrocities that occur. When I entered that war, I proceeded to Tallahatchie and then to Talladega. Then realized what the force at Topeka was, and backtracked from Topeka back to get reinforcements, realizing that I was matched in number, and went through Amakfa as well. But then Anita Chapka had to turn and defend myself in retreat as I went back to Struthers in order to get my reinforcements, and then turn back and come back to Horseshoe Bend. Those were the battles I was involved in. What are the other battles that you were involved in? Holy Ground.
It was funny.
Reflect a little bit about the battles that you participated in.
I wasn't in that many of them at all. The primary one, I was involved in a few skirmishes. The primary one I was involved in was at Holy Ground. And the interesting part about that was my brother-in-law, Sam Manak. Sam Manak's the one that saw me supposedly jump off the bluff. I mean, I love that story, because that story will go on for centuries and centuries, that I jumped off of a 40-foot bluff. The bluff was about as high as this stage, actually. But it was the position that Sam saw me in. He saw me disappear, and of course, word's already out, I've done heard, word's already out that I jumped off of a 40-foot bluff in the midst of a firefighting, and then took my horse across the river. Didn't quite work that way. But I was there, and I was just outside of Topeka for a short period of time, probably a month before, as they were constructing it. But you know where most of my time was spent in the latter part of the war was with the children, and a lot of people don't realize that. My time was spent with the refugees. And that's the part that started getting to me was, I told my people from the get-go, when they made the decision to fight not only each other, but to fight you, to fight America, I told them, I said, this is to be the destruction of our nation. But you're my people, and you hope you understand that with Creek people, my mother was Creek, that makes me Creek. I was raised traditionally, though I look white, I was raised traditionally, the traditions of our people, and it is my honor and my duty to fight with my people, no matter what. But it's true. I knew it wouldn't last long. I knew it was not a winnable war. I knew that. But as time wore on, and the last few months of the conflict continued, more and more men died. Just before Topeka, right? There were so many refugees. There were so many starving women and children that were coming down, making their way down through, trying to avoid the other conflicts. And then in Topeka, of course, that just finished it off for me.
Both you and I were born in this country, on this land. I was born with three enemies in life: the British, the Spanish, and the Indian. It is the only life I knew growing up, and atrocities happening from all three. We approached the creek, the Redstick and the Whitestick, being involved in a civil war between the two as one nation. Hence the reason for the treaty being against a Creek nation. Talladega itself was a village after Tallahatchie that quickly converted over. And then Redsticks came in to take care of it. So the Creek people have the ability to switch sides if necessary to survive.
Right, yes, that's true.
To survive, we realize that. But are under heavy influence from Spain and from Britain because of the nation going to the Gulf Coast. And so our war is against those nations as well. We not only have a city to defend or a territory, it's a nation to defend. And this is part of our concern with the Creek Nation. But for you as an individual,